Hello and welcome to another fittingsites.com screencast tutorial. In this video we are going to cover how to add images to your pages and posts inside of WordPress. And here we're going to start with our sample website, which has a post already in place, but as you can see when I scroll down, it's nothing but a sea of text, which I think you'll agree is pretty dull looking. And one of the easiest ways that you can beautify your website and also increase engagement amongst your visitors is to add images to illustrate your pages and posts. So what we're going to cover today is a simple way to do that and also have it work well with the text so that we create more of a magazine style layout where our images and our text flow together very smoothly. So in order to do that, we need to cover a few of the ways that WordPress in particular and websites in general are a little bit different than a desktop publishing program like Microsoft Word, for example. So starting here inside of our Edit Post panel, the easiest way to begin by adding an image into WordPress is simply to place your cursor inside of the text area where you would like your image to appear. And one of the things I want to say as sort of a rule of thumb, and just to make sure that we start off on the right foot, the best place to add images inside of WordPress is at the very beginning of your paragraphs. I think that there's a great temptation, especially as you're looking inside of this text editor, to think that it's a lot like a desktop publishing program. And for example, if you wanted to add a word to the right side of the text, that you would simply click to place your cursor on the right hand side of the column that you see in front of you. Or perhaps to put your text somewhere in the middle, like 3 lines down or anywhere inside of the text. With WordPress, it's a little bit tricky sometimes to add images. One of the reasons why is that this preview that you see in front of you isn't always a reflection of how the website actually looks when people visit the page. So one way to avoid the problem of not knowing exactly where your image is going to end up when you put it inside of your text is to start by adding it to the beginning of your paragraphs. And as you'll see when we get to the upload panel inside of WordPress, from here you'll control where your image will go, separate from this. So always begin by adding an image to the beginning of your paragraphs. And once we've inserted our cursor there, all we need to do is click on the icon to add an image, and when we do so, it brings up this panel which allows you to then add your image. And for those of you that have added images to your media library already, this should look very familiar because it's basically the same upload style that you see inside of the media library. So indeed, from here you could upload an image from your computer directly without having to add it to the media library first. And when you do so, the image will not just be added to your post, but it will also be added to your media library automatically, killing 2 birds with 1 stone basically. However, since we already have images in our media library already uploaded and ready to go, we're going to click on that tab, and I've selected this image for Toasted Meringue to be the first image of my blog post. And let's scroll down a little bit so we can see everything that's here. The top part you will recognize if you've been in the media library, as it just basically shows you some of the information that's associated with your image, as well as an area for the title, which we've already added, and our alternate text, which we've also added. You could put a caption in here if you wanted to, and it would display below your image, separate from the alternate text, which doesn't display in your site itself, so it's not like a caption, but it's actually something that's in the source code of your website, something that, say, a search engine would see, for example. So a very good place to put keywords and kind of increase your SEO. The caption, on the other hand, is something that displays publicly for everyone to see when they visit your page. For this image, I'm choosing not to use a caption, but you can simply do so by adding it in here. Also, there's a description field, which not every theme inside of WordPress uses, and in fact the 2010 theme we're using here does not, so we're going to leave it blank for now. Skipping down to the next line, we have the link URL, and we're going to skip this for now and cover it in a separate video because it's kind of a topic that deserves its own discussion. But for now, we're just going to leave this as it is. and continue on to the next part of the panel, which is alignment. And this is a part that is probably a little less familiar for people who are using a website for the first time. As we started this, we of course put our cursor in the beginning of the paragraph, but in this area of alignment we actually can then select where the image is going to go and how it is going to interact with the text. So our first option here is an alignment of none, which basically means that the image stands completely by itself and has no text around it whatsoever. Text will appear above it or below it, but never to the side. And this is great if you're using a larger image and you want to really call attention to it by having it stand out on its own. However, for this lesson, what we're going to cover is how to illustrate a post or a page full of text by adding images in such a way that it creates a magazine-style layout where it works with the text instead of fighting against it. So moving over to the next option, align left, as we can see by looking at the icon that's presented to us, the image, which is a red square in this particular example, is to the left of the entire text column, and we can see that the available space that's left over is automatically filled by lines of text. There's also an option for centering your alignment with text going on either side of the image, but I don't recommend using this one. It does cause some problems inside of WordPress, and it can just be a little awkward overall. It's really not something that you see very often, and it's more trouble than it's worth. So skip that for now, and let's talk about the right alignment. Even though we have inserted our cursor at the beginning of the paragraph, and thus you would think that the image, of course, would be to the left, by clicking on this button, we actually can tell WordPress to move the image completely to the right and just fill in that blank area with text. So even though we're starting by adding an image at the very beginning of the paragraph, at the very first word, this will still actually put the image to the right and fill in the space for us automatically. So this is how you get the image in WordPress to go to either one side or the other. Skipping down to the next line below that, we have several sizes. And when you upload an image into your media library in WordPress, it automatically creates several default image sizes based on the settings in your theme. And we have an option for full size, which of course is the largest size the image is available at. But for illustrating your articles or your blog posts, it's actually better to choose a size of medium or thumbnail. These are two sizes that are generally small enough that they leave enough extra room to one side or the other to allow the text to flow around it and breathe and have proper line lengths. So choosing an image size of either medium or thumbnail means that you'll be able to add your images into your text very easily without breaking the flow of your content. For this example, we're going to choose medium, which is set by default and just happens to be about half the width of our text column, as we'll see in a second. So let's go ahead and click on Insert Post. And now looking in the preview for our post, we see that our image is large enough to be viewed and certainly compelling, but at the same time it leaves enough space to the left of it to allow for the text to be very legible and very readable. And we can see that our cursor is still over here floating on the right, or the left-hand side, excuse me. But even though we added our image to the left, because we told it to go to the right and align itself there and let the text flow around it or fill in the available space, we've created this nice layout already just by using the functions that are built into WordPress automatically. Of course, what we see here in the preview may not be what we see on the page, so always update or preview your changes or save as a draft. Definitely make sure that you take the time to look at it inside of your blog post so that you can see it for yourself and make sure there's no problems. And here we see that indeed we have our image to the right exactly as it looked inside of the preview, and all done very simply just by using the controls inside of WordPress. So that's about all we can cover for now. We're going to do several videos on how to work with images inside of your WordPress pages. But for now, thank you very much for your attention, and have a great day.